Welcome to the Kahler Podcast, episode 7, which is our extra fantastic 4th of July blockbuster spectacular extravaganza. What do you think of that?
I think it's great. We got a lot to talk about 4th of July. Thank God for the 4th of July.
Absolutely. But first, viewer comments. Scott Dahlberg 4890 says, I bought a Kahler for a build I did. I had to block and glue a piece in because I mismeasured 6 times. I am still off on intonation by just about 3/16 of an inch. Well, that's a lot. I could fix it, but the bridge pickup would have to be moved the same 3/16 space. Is it worth doing is the question. Does it really need to be that close to intonation if I am just playing metal, Slayer, etc.? What are your thoughts? I know what my thoughts are.
I know what mine are.
Okay, you want to go first?
3/16.
It's a hell of a lot.
Off through by 3/16.
That is a lot.
I don't think he's going to hear any harmonics there. I think that, you're going to have to pull it in somehow.
Intonation is an interesting thing. Essentially, you tune the open string, and the more out you are, the more the notes will be out of tune, the further up the neck you go. So if it's not that bad out of intonation, by about the 14th, 15th fret, you're going to start to hear a little waver. But if it's really, really bad, it could be before the 12th. My recommendation would be, fix it. However, if you just distort the living hell out of everything and you don't want to, well, do it the way you're doing it for now.
I think I'm going to put my earphones on. I forgot to do it.
Oh, yeah, that's important. Ham Zam Henna 1422 said, are the Kahlers sold in thomann in Europe genuine? Looking to replace my old Extrem. Thomann, what do you think?
Well, sure.
Are they?
I believe they are. I believe a distributor may sell it to them, or a German distributor.
That'd be Warwick.
I think Warwick is selling the thomann.
Thomann, for those who don't know, is absolutely huge. There are people behind Harley Benton and a bunch of other stuff, and they've got so much buying power that they can actually sell an entire cabinet for less than the cost of the speakers that go in the cabinet. Hey, I kind of went out of order. I'm sorry. Ham Zam Henna 1422. Hi, this is my first comment on YouTube ever. I appreciate the good work you're doing preserving history and look forward to more content.
Well, I think that's good. I think that takes a little time to put it all together. We're going to have a lot of content going forward.
A lot of people, Gary's one of those people, don't really understand why it is that some of us really, really want to know the history of all this.
Well, the history and development, the continuing development, the continuing changing of just about every bridge we make. I mean, and a lot of that came from, people that were using it, and they would say, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And, we just did it.
Yeah, you guys, we'll let you know a little bit later some of the new stuff that we got coming up, and it's pretty exciting. Bluwng says, are there any plans to do a drop-in replacement for Strats? I got one right here. This is a brass factory bridge. It is a direct replacement drop-in for Fender Strat.
It is. Got the same screw holes. Got everything in there.
Now, it's important to note that this was made in the 70s, so there was only American spacing for those screw holes.
But we kept it special for our new customer.
Oh, absolutely.
We've only kept it around for 50 years, for God's sakes. That's all 360 half hard brass, all machined, all of that. And I think you'd find it sounds pretty damn good.
Yeah, I can't wait to put one of these on a guitar and check it out. And we do have them in inventory. We've got to get to cataloging pricing, and then they'll be available. But yeah, drop in for a Strat. Yeah, we've had those available since 1978. Gray Gunter 698 said, just looked at AliExpress, has clone of the Killer for $75. Days made days made of same specs and materials as originally designed by the team of engineers in the 90s for the metal rock music, LOL. They put dumb descriptions on there for junk knockoff. I wouldn't buy it because it's not made by Kahler. I looked all over AliExpress for a counterfeit killer, and I did not find one. I don't think it can be counterfeit.
I don't think it is counterfeit because it takes too much to make that. And anyway, if it is, I sure like to see it. So if they have one out there, give us a call, do something.
Yeah.
Send it to us again because that was a extraordinarily expensive bridge to make.
I tell you what, if you see it, copy and paste the link. Let us see the link. Now, I will say this, though, and this is going to be exceptionally cool. We did find a counterfeit of a Kahler and something else on AliExpress, and we used a very, very secret, sneaky, covert action to buy it. And we're going to expose this thing. Yeah, and it's coming on a guitar that's a counterfeit, too. And I can't wait to expose this thing. I hate counterfeit guitars. JB-Y01IQ says, any plans for Kahler merch? I would love to get a Kahler t-shirt. We have a Kahler store, storefront right now. I'll copy and paste the link. It's that's taken care of by Harley, who does our Instagram and all the internet stuff and fulfills your orders and things like that. Harley is, and on top of that, he's a power lifter and just one great big cuddly teddy bear. I would assume, because I'm not going to try to cuddle with him. Yeah, we will. We'll put that link up so that you can get all the Kahler t-shirts that you want. And because this is print on demand, we'll probably offer a lot of different things. TonePriest says, "Great job, guys. I'm looking forward to see what y'all do in the future." Gary, what advice would you give to someone starting a business in the musical industry? Musical instrument industry.
Oh my God. Depends on what kind of business. You know, if you want to work out of your garage or you want to work out of your front room or your kitchen, and you're making a device you want to sell, well, make sure you got something that, that you really believe and your friends believe somebody would like, and figure out a way to make it. And good luck to you. That's all I got to say. That's how I got started. I just got started on making a onesie and did that, and had no money. And the whole family wondered what the hell I was doing. But in any case, yeah. But if you're starting a retail business, that's a different story. You're going to start a wholesale business, that's completely something else. You can line up all of your sources in advance and get some capital and go after and go on the internet. I mean, that's what you want to do.
I've done some work with the TonePriest before, and this guy does some really, really great pedals and things like that.
Oh.
Yeah, they're really, really good.
Now, wait a minute. Is he an engineer?
I don't know what he would. I think he's just kind of like me, somebody who did it because he's just obsessed.
So he's a reseller then.
He'll probably be somebody who manufactures and sells his stuff.
Well, he can let us know what he does.
Yeah, Wampler got started very much in the same way. And then the one thing that I can't believe you didn't say was anything about money, because you definitely need to make sure that you've got the money to finance it.
Yeah, well, one of the things you can do is borrow money from all your family members. And that way, if it ever fails, you don't have to worry about those family members.
They'll never talk to you again.
In any case, you want to make sure that you got something there, and try not to borrow money from family members in the beginning. Use your own money. Even take out your own second mortgages and do it. And prove that you got something. I think then you'll find that everybody in the family, I mean, uncles, aunts, and brothers and sisters, parents may kick in a few bucks, and And that way you can advertise and do more and grow your company. But you got to go out and prove it yourself first and make sure you got the right stuff.
Mr. Profit 9127 says, do Kahlers need to be installed on a guitar with an angled neck pocket?
Well, you answer that one.
I will answer that one. A little bit of angle is very, very good. You know what? I have a visual aid here. Happy 4th of July, everybody. So, the higher that the roller is, the better that this Kahler is going to work. So, the best way to do that is to have a little bit of an angle to the neck pocket. However, these rollers here, well, we can have different size rollers in here, and we've got a new one for your higher strings that will make it all but impossible for that string to jump out. Does it need to be angled? No, but it would more than likely work for you better if it was. What do you think?
The riser screw in that saddle, that 440, is the right length. You don't want to take it any higher than what that screw will let you go. And
Definitely.
Don't take it all the way to the last thread, that 440. It'll work just very good in the medium height.
Yeah.
That's where you ought to be, about halfway from the bottom. And then that's the best setup, I believe.
Yeah, and a little bit of angle, is pretty good. And we've got a few set neck guitars here, Warlocks, ESPs, Carvins, things like that are set or neck through, and they work absolutely fine. In fact, the Dean right behind you with a hybrid on it,
Yep.
It looks like there's no neck angle to that thing at all, and I set it up myself, and it works great.
Well, there's a couple other things, too. You can take the 2200 series that goes on the Les Paul.
Yes.
And you got the studs in the back and the risers in the front underneath the bridge, and you can get angle right out of the bridge there to some extent.
That is very true. Greg Gunter 698 says, I'm going to order me a spyder for my LTD-EC 1000 FR Deluxe. She's a 2007 black like the one Gary Holt plays.
Yep.
Don't care for the Floyd. I have an 88 Deluxe Tracer USA made with the spyder. The header since is new in the 1988 Vandenberg. Wish I could get one with a killer. That trim was the best ever. Well, apparently $75 on AliExpress. That was a joke.
That's not a very funny joke.
Well, I never said it was funny. Try one out and feel the guitar resonate. Lucky the frets have stayed in the fretboard and they have not vibrated out. LOL. The spyder is better than any Floyd ever made, but those killers are just that killer. Maybe just save up and buy a used killer and a custom mount to do the EC 1000.
The killers I've been noticing on the social cell mechanism,
right?
That they're going for as high as $300 used, $350. I've seen them that high.
I've seen them a lot higher than that.
Yep, I know, all the way up to $500. But I can say that it is really one hell of a bridge, and it was so expensive to make that I'll simply never be making it again. So they're the only ones out there.
Yeah, and you know what, you guys, I got to say, one day we will tell the story of the killer because it is quite a story.
Well, it was so far advanced for its time. We got a little bit ahead of the manufacturing processes, and as a result, not every part that we originally wanted it the way it was. We had to redo it a number of times until it worked.
One thing I do want to caution you about is that if you put a spyder into your LTD EC 1000 FR for Floyd Rose,
yes,
the drive is the space between the studs.
Yep.
While the drive is the same, the studs are different, and the sleeves to put the studs in are wider. So you're going to have to pull the old sleeves, and you're going to have to drill and put those in. And in addition, if it's a floating bridge, you're going to need to do a little routing to accommodate the slightly different plate. The drive on the killer is the outer screws of an American 6-hole fender, just like the 2300. The plate of the spyder itself is also a different shape. And in addition to that, it'll only fit for a 37 millimeter block, because the block is not removable on the spyder. A real good, easy swap would be one of the new Steelers. One of the new Steelers with either a Godiva if you want a lot of travel, or with a blunt fatty if you just want a great big fat brass block. And both those blocks are convertible. They will do either 32, 35, or 37, and they are a direct drop in for a Floyd. So
they are.
It would fit pretty much no fuss, no muss. Six Sledges 5474 says, hey, I am really excited to say that I had my first time just a few minutes ago. First time playing a Kahler trem, that is. It was a Kahler hybrid on a BC Rich Kerry King signature. I think it was the War Tribe 2 or something, and I am sold. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced. Butter smooth, extreme range, nothing like a Floyd-style trem. As soon as I have the funds, I am assembling a parts caster with a Kahler 7300, maybe even a 2300.
Well, that's good.
I love that. I love hearing stuff like that, being somebody who grew up with Kahlers everywhere.
Yep.
I never would have imagined the day where you couldn't just walk into a guitar store and go like, hey, you try this one with the Kahler, because they're not there anymore.
Well, the other thing is this, remember, we do have conversion plates. So if he happens to have a Fulcrum bridge and on a guitar and he wants to put on a Kahler, we do have conversion plates to make that easy to do.
I've got one of the really inexpensive BC Rich Warlocks that has a Bendmaster on it. Maybe we'll have to do the conversion and show people how to do it.
I think that's important.
Yeah, I really do too. My recommendation would be, if you do it on a parts caster, get an old Strat body that has the American 6-hole spacing, because that's the easy way to do it. Washichu66 says, absolutely loving the podcast and the 80s behind the scene throwback. Great format and content. I am not American, but I think what you do is great. Kudos to Gary for maintaining this bit of precision industry right at home. On a side note, I was recently in touch with Gary about a book I'm writing on Charvel, Japan. Very grateful for his kind reply, and actually very moved by what he had to say. Thanks, Gary. Class act. No questions, but 2 requests. I'd love to hear more about the beginning with Dave's story, and also about the OEM collabs in Japan in the 80s with Greco, Fender, and Charvel. Keep it up. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's Aria.
Yeah,
Aria.
He spelled it out phonetically there.
I know. I see him. Yes, I remember that. I answered his email to me, and since Grover Jackson's always been a very good friend of mine, we had our differences, but he's one of the guys, and from the old days in the 80s. So, I tried to tell him everything I could about Grover and Wayne Charvel and the connections to IMC and a whole lot of things about that.
Yeah.
And that's nice that he's writing something for Grover.
There are lots and lots of books out there on Fender, Gibson, Ibanez, Rickenbacker, things like that. I can't believe that there's nothing on Jackson.
There's nothing on Jackson or Wayne Charvel.
Nothing on BC Rich. There's nothing on.
There's nothing on me either.
There's nothing on you.
Now, who's Kahler anyway?
That's right.
Could be Kohler.
Danny Louvier 3766 says, like your shirt, Eddie. Okay, not this one. But this is in reference to the Merciful Fate shirt that you commented on last week. Merciful Fate, Slayer, Exodus, Metallica, Destruction, things like that. Those were all the things that meant the most to me when I was a teenager growing up. And I went through a little time there where I was in my 20s, 30s thinking, oh, I've got to start dressing like an adult. And then one day I thought, why? So it's nothing but It's nothing but inappropriate shirts for me from here on out.
Well, you kind of cut your hair off, and now, did you wear that hat when you were a teenager?
No. This I did not let anything interfere with like the biggest, huge mane of hair. I'll have to find a slide and insert it right here. But yeah, my friends and I, we all had the nickname. I don't know if people said this other places or if it was just our school, but we were hair farmers because we grew our hair with such vim and vigor. Stone Phillips commented, they were made in San Diego by iconic Badlands, just hurt other small builders, boom out. And this is in reference to that Badlands guitar that somebody asked about. The guy came right in on a Buffalo and all that. It'd be easy enough to find out if Iconic made them. You could just call them up.
Call up, come in here, tell me.
Yeah. Sure. However, absolutely nobody can agree on who made those guitars. I've heard that Kiesel made them. I've heard that Fender made them. I heard blah, 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 blah. I was told that it was Sir.
Yeah, also, he's not in San Diego. He's in Carlsbad, California. So that's okay. That's great, because if he knows that, we don't know that it isn't, so we'll call up and then we'll let people know.
Well, it'd be pretty neat, and I mean, they the way that Philip McKnight talked about it was, I'm not trying to keep this a secret, but I'm not going to tell anybody, so once the word's out, then we'll be like, okay, you figured it out. It's kind of like a big scavenger hunt. Aaron Walker 5990 says, I love that you guys are willing to talk about guitars that are not Kahler equipped. Interesting stuff. I didn't realize that neck plate could only be made in China. A sad state of affairs. He's once again the Badlands. And we don't want to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on it because it is, in fact, not a Kahler equipped guitar. Although Badlands, for people who want to make a guitar that is specifically from about the 1984 to 86 inspired era, well, that was when Kahler reigned supreme. So there should be a Badlands with a 2300 on it.
Well, yeah, but, everybody's up to their choice. And as far as that neck plate is concerned, it could have been made in the United States. If they wanted to make it.
Well,
it could have made that plate.
At great expense. I'm sure that they did that.
And more expense, let's put it that way.
Yeah, more expense.
And God bless them. They put something out there and sold, and they made money. And I guess that's what's important. Everybody likes to get paid and eat and have a place to live.
Well, it sounds like from what Phil was talking about, him exiting the company, he actually not only didn't make money, but he lost money. Boy, that happens too, right?
Oh, we've all had that experience.
At the end of the day, when it all comes right down to it, I have a really nice guitar because they went through the effort, and I appreciate it very much. ToonamiAftermath says, how does a flyer compare to the... Oh, okay, now let me say something about this really quick. Before I moved here and we started doing this, I made a comparison video. It's on my channel. And it's the difference between a hybrid and a professional, a 2300 and a 7300. This is in reference to that. So I'll put up that video, but it's got a lot of great information because it will tell you the only differences between a professional and a hybrid. And it's not that much. They're both made in America. They're both super top quality.
He's talking about a flyer.
He is talking about a flyer.
Flyer is completely different than a hybrid or the Pro.
Well, let me read this out. So ToonamiAftermath says, how does the flyer compare to these? I just picked up a Greco that has one. Mm-hmm. First time Kahler owner. Nice. I've had a dozen Floyd Rose guitars, though. This will be a very different experience for you.
The original 500 Gibsons that we made had the flyer saddle set on it because, that was very conventional at the time. Everybody used an intonation bolt with a spring and two little 440 screws up front to raise and lower it, height adjustment and all that. Have no left or right adjustment whatsoever. Originally, we did not have tracks for the 440s. So those little saddles would slide all over. For the simple reason it has a bolt and a spring. It's like next we put tracks in, and then we made two different kinds of flyers. We made the one, what we called the standard, more standard spacing, and then we made one with a wider spacing, and everybody know what that means because one was sort of made for Gibsons, the other was sort of made for Fenders. Then we graduated from that situation of the intonation bolt and spring and sliding around to a lockdown saddle. And then the lockdown saddle comes on the hybrid and the pro units because, first of all, it's adjustable spacing. You can move it left and right, intonates in and out, and of course it'll go up and down. So it has 6-way adjustment, and you don't have to worry about the saddle moving around when you bend the string.
Now, I would like to kind of decipher just a little bit of that for you guys. Now, the roller was always there. But there was a intonation bolt that came out and a spring that kept the saddle where it was supposed to be against the string tension. Can you imagine a time back when humbuckers were a different spacing than single coils? Because it was that way for a long time. And that is why Gary made these saddles right here to where you can loosen them up and you just easily line them up over the pull pieces of your pickup. And then these forks are a lot more stable than the Flyer. But all that being said, you can upgrade your Flyer because all these parts will fit. And we're talking about a kit to where you can upgrade your Flyer with hybrid parts, which are pretty close to the same as professional parts. Really, only the cam is different. And then you will have a Fly-Brid, and you'll have a clutch, and you'll have the forks, and you'll have all that other kind of stuff.
What'd you call that bridge then? That it was going to be a what? A fly what?
A Fly-Brid, a hybrid.
A Fly-Brid.
A Flyer and a hybrid, a Fly-Brid.
Oh my God, a Fly-Brid.
I like to name stuff.
Well, okay.
And that's it. So before we get started, there are a couple announcements. And the first one is that we're going to have a special 4th of July promotion that's going to last all of July.
Yep.
Yeah. And what exactly is it? Well, it's a secret, but you'll know before July 1st. And it will revolve around, it'll revolve around your creativity. We're looking forward to see what happens.
Okay.
Now, we'd also like to mention that we went to Sam Ash here in Las Vegas not too terribly long ago.
You took the pictures, and I talked about it, and Frederick, the manager over there, gave us permission to do that because they're closing the store here in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I just like to say that Sam Ash is special to me because when I lived in New York City, well, I lived in Melville, New York on Long Island, and I take the Long Island Express train to get down to 48th Street. I come to know the Sam Ash folks very, very well, and my hat's off to them, and I'm so sorry that, what was it?
100 years.
23?
24. 24.
Yeah, is it 24? Yeah, since
1924.
1924. Well, we could make it 200 years, can we?
Right. Well, we could.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't work. And it's a heck of a story behind that. We won't get into that, but they deserve some attention.
I'll tell you what, we got something really, really cool that we're going to make even cooler. And that is a surprise, too. What years did you live in Long Island?
That had to be in the late 60s, I think, when I went to work for Dolce Instruments.
Late 60s?
Yep.
Through what, like mid-70s or something?
No, I was only there for 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And then we moved to California in the 70s.
Still in the 60s on Long Island, you probably went right by Steve Vai and Joe Satriani when they were grade school kids.
I have no idea.
Another thing worth mentioning is that on the 22nd of June, we went and we got to see Lita Ford.
Yep, big deal. And she was wonderful as ever. I can just say what a hell of a show. And then we all went backstage and we had a nice meeting back then. We'll show some pictures.
Yeah.
And the folks that went with us were from Vegas Guitars, and that was Neil Smith and his wife, Susie. I've dealt with Lita for so long, since she was 17 years old or something like that. And yeah, so it's been a long time. I know how old I am, so it's been a hell of a long time.
You know, it's amazing that Lita Ford is still only 23 years old.
At 24, I think.
24?
Yeah, 24.
How dare you?
Also, she just came out and looked at our facility, and it was that was a nice thing. That's the first time she's come out to do that.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. Unfortunately, that was also the day that our air conditioning decided to break.
Something happened on the water pump, and my goodness, it was over 92 degrees where we're at right now. Well, nobody can operate 92 degrees.
Yeah,
so.
I think that inside the warehouse on that day, it was like approaching 102 degrees.
Well, I don't think it was that hot, but well, I don't know. What do I know?
It was 315 degrees.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know because I was trying to cook a pizza. Okay.
Right. Well, you didn't have to cook it then. All you just set it out.
Just set it out there. Next thing, I want to let you guys know, I'm so excited to do this. I've been holding off for a while, and boy, oh boy, finally going to get to that guitar right there. That Gibson Designer Series that came stock with the Kahler. I'm going to put all new parts on that thing. I love the dichotomy of a beat-up old neck and guitar with all brand new shiny parts.
Well, you have them ordered. You have the parts ordered.
I certainly do.
Okay, well, let's get it done and get it up here.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be so cool, too, because it's going to have the most modern Kahler on it.
Yep.
It's going to have anniversary DiMarzio pickups. I found a couple neat things to make that extra special, and some hip shot tuners. That thing's just going to be so cool when it's done. So, as mentioned before, as you can tell by our extremely festive hats here,
yes,
this is the 4th of July blockbuster extravaganza spectacular El Grande.
And also from the University of Nebraska, I'd like to say. And that big old N right there, my alma mater, is important to what we're talking about right here.
And I got this in Kentucky when I was on a dive job. And it is made out of 100% paper in China. And it says right on it, take it off if it starts to rain or you sweat excessively.
I see. What were you diving for?
We were putting in a facility for the
I thought it was
fly
something
ash
else
pond.
More interesting, man.
Well, it is pretty interesting. We were doing a directional drilling thing so that the fly ash pond wouldn't overflow into the lake.
I'm sorry I asked.
You should be.
I am.
Every day we'd stop and we'd get diesel and burritos and whatever from this gas station. These hats were hanging there. This was supposed to be a 3-day job. It wound up being a 2-month job, and I just had to buy the hat. It's important to note that the 4th of July has special meaning to both Gary and I. We're going to talk about that. First off is what it means to Gary. And by the way, take a little look at this super cool 2300 we have right here.
Yep.
Very patriotic.
I want you to know I made that.
That's right. And
that one.
We had just enough parts to do too. Now this one right here really reminds me of the 70s. We'll get into that after the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yep.
It was only 13 days long, but this could have led to World War III.
Well, I was right in the middle of it. I was in the Army at that time.
What a time to be in the Army.
Well, yeah. See, I'd gone to the University of Nebraska, and I'd been in an ROTC program. That's their, officer training part. I wanted to be a pilot, so I was in for 3 years, but then the government said, no, we're going to change the deal. We're going to be in for 5 years. And I said, screw that. I'm not going to take 5 years of my life. In retrofit, I should have taken 10 years of my life because I probably would have learned more. I dropped out of school for a while, and as a result, the draft board in Jefferson County, Nebraska said, oh, here we got one. We'll just draft him. Well, I kind of knew that was going to happen, so I joined Nebraska National Guard.
We got some highlights here. Don't want to make anybody feel like they're going back to school. But it all started October 14th, 1962, when a U-2 spy plane took hundreds of photos of what the CIA analysts identified as launchers, missiles, and trucks. Now, we're talking about Russian nuclear missiles here.
I mean, they were bad news. And then on October the 16th, JFK announced a naval quarantine.
That's right.
A blockade is an act of war.
That's right. Verbiage is so important. But then on the 22nd, JFK went on national TV with an 18-minute speech revealing unmistakable evidence of the missile threat. And he, at the same time, declared that the U.S. would not let ships through and demands that the Soviets remove the missiles.
They did. October 23, 24, JFK and Khrushchev exchanged letters, each trying to gain the upper hand, actually.
October 26th, Fidel Castro actually wrote Khrushchev urging him to launch a nuclear first strike on the United States. So that was enough for Khrushchev to write JFK and say, like, hey, let's try to reel this thing back in. I mean, my God.
It was on the 27th, the U-2 pilot shot down and killed over Cuba, and that could have started World War III. I can tell you that all the time this was going on, I was in the Army. Now, I went in as a musician, believe it or not. They lined us up and said, okay, you're going to be an automatic weapon platoon. So we were all automatic weapon. I want to tell you, Kennedy was so convinced that probably you have to send the Marines in. Everybody was ready to go. I know in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, one evening, the Deuce and a Halfs were running and was ready to go. The Marines were going first, the Air Force and Marines, and then we'd come in and hold the territory. But fortunately, it didn't happen.
We're very lucky because JFK, he quite correctly figured that Khrushchev probably did not give the order to shoot down that U-2 plane.
Now, I want to make really clear to all the people that served their time in active military 3 and 4 years, I never did that. I was still in the reserves, and I spent 5 years going to meetings, and every year happened to go a week or 2 weeks to camp. But I have to say that was one of the best experiences of my life, and I learned a heck of a lot about discipline.
We were very, very, very lucky that a compromise was reached, and the U.S. withdrew some missiles from Turkey and promised not to attack Cuba when the Russians withdrew. So on October 28th, Khrushchev agrees, and they withdraw the missiles from Cuba, and, catastrophe averted. This all happened just 7 years and some change before I was even born.
Everybody have a little military, and it isn't going to hurt them at all, men and women, just like they do,
Certain countries, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and now I personally, no military service, kind of came close to joining the Marines one time.
We don't want to hear that story.
As the joke can go sometimes, and hopefully you guys find it funny, because I mean absolutely no disrespect. The joke I've heard many times is I failed the last test. I couldn't get my head in that jar. The reason that I love the 4th of July, and it's just my favorite holiday. I'm actually kind of chasing a memory here, and that is of the Bicentennial. I was 6 years old in 1976, but the whole celebration kind of started at the beginning of 75 when the Freedom Train, which was not funded by the government at all. It was just a bunch of patriotic people, some big corporations and stuff. And that thing went to all 48 states.
It did.
It took 2 years to do it. Man, I just got to tell you that for about 2 years, as a little kid, everybody got along. It was the craziest thing. We are at a point right now where we have such a culture of contempt that pretty much anybody can get offended at anything at the drop of a hat, and then everybody expects everyone to apologize, and then when they won't, all of a sudden they start slinging these wild accusations. You must be a this, you must be a that.
During this time, I was living in a place called Coto de Casa, California, which is a gated community in Orange County.
Gated community in California, ooh la la.
We had the horse venue and all of that, and then there was couple of other venues. It was very exciting because the whole area was all red, white, and blue. I mean, it was something. You could volunteer for this venue, that venue. I mean, to do different things, and so a lot of people in Coto de Casa were did a lot of work for the Centennial, Bicentennial.
Well, I should hope so. I mean, what is a gated California community without a horse venue? I mean,
Well,
seriously.
I guess so. Now, there was other venues there, too, which I just don't remember
Right. Well, I think the horse venue would stick out in my head. Well, my whole point was simply this, because I'm not trying to drive a wedge in between anybody. In fact, I want to take all the wedges out, because I long for a day where we all realize that we're all neighbors. We are all in this together, and we've got a lot more in common than we think. There's a lot more that's similar than there is different for us, and I don't care if you're straight or gay, or what your ethnicity is, or your political affiliations, religious ideology, sexual orientation, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're all in this together, and we should all treat each other better.
Well, we're all living on the same planet, and we don't need another deal like the Cuban crisis, because I experienced that, and I will tell you that was a real deal. And everybody thought this is it. Everybody on the post said, this is it, we're gone. Because all of the officers said, we're gone. The deuce and halves, I'll say again, were actually running in the middle of the night. And we finally got the notice. It was late in the morning. It was 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember. Yeah. That we were not going. Jeff Kennedy was a great man. I mean, he did a good job on that. For Republicans or Democrats, didn't make any difference.
No.
We stopped World War III, and it could have been. We got a lot of the same stuff going on today, and hopefully we have strong leadership, Republic or Democrat or both, that can bring it around. After all, this is the 4th of July, and let's be safe, and let's and be free, for goodness sake.
Enjoy your hot dogs and your beer and your fireworks.
Yep.
Take care of those poor gun-shy dogs, give them a little doggy downer or something like that. I can't wait to have to deal with mine when they start blowing shit up.
I know.
It's going to be no fun whatsoever.
Well, here in Vegas, I mean, they really blow stuff up.
I can only imagine.
They go on top of these tall buildings, and every one of these big casinos, it look like they're all going to take off from the moon. I mean, really, it's some spectacular deal.
That sounds good enough for me. I hope that you guys all have a very safe and a very fun 4th of July. Spend it in the way that you feel is the best way for you to celebrate our independence. And you know what? Next time you're out and about and you've got a chance to do the right thing and help somebody out, I hope you take it.
I agree with you, Eddie. I think one of the biggest things we've got to do is put the unemployed that want to work back to work. And we got to do that. We got to keep stuff made in the United States. And we're going to be talking about this all year long. And you're going to see videos of people that actually work for a company in the machine shop that have worked with me over 45 years. And I wish that the machine shop was here in Vegas, because we go interview them. They're so very, very important to what we do. Buy American, buy USA. I know it's more expensive, but you're helping to keep the people to work. And, maybe the folks that were not as fortunate as a lot of us that get the education they needed, believe me, they do a great job in a machine shop.
And, I'd just like to add that there's just a real big satisfaction that you get when you do something and that it's been a job well done and somebody's going to enjoy what you just created. And it's something that more people need to be able to experience. I think that's good enough. So until next time, I've been Eddie Kernan.
And I'm Gary Kahler, and thank you for watching our podcast.
Absolutely. Happy 4th of July, everyone.
Happy 4th.